back, kids. We're now joined by entrepreneur and businessman Mark Cuban. His business ventures are, well, too numerous to list. You know him as the owner of the Dallas Mavericks and one of the stars of ABC's Shark Tank. Sir, thanks so much for making the time.
Thanks for having me on, Chris.
I've been listening to some of the interviews you've been doing around the country, and you're calling it America 2.0, what our nation will be like in the business community after we get a handle on COVID-19. What do you mean by America 2.0?
You know, I think we're going to be different. We're going to go through a complete reset, how we approach business, how consumers consume products and services. I think it's going to be dramatically different, and we have to start preparing and anticipating now. But the good news out of that, I think when we look back in 5 to 10 years, there are going to be some amazing companies that were formed that just changed the game, changed the world. You know, I'm a big capitalist, and I think that's really what's going to guide us and lead us through this.
Yeah, you know what? I want to get to your capitalism here in a minute, but one of the hardest hit industries has been hospitality, has been airlines. I was just commenting today as I was talking on the radio. I mean, even once the all clear is given, how many folks are going to be eager to jump onto an airplane? You know what I mean? With that type of, when this social distancing takes hold. So there is going to have to be some sort of innovation to get us back on track. Hospitality, restaurants. Yep. Have you even began to think about how that's going to look?
Absolutely. So, you know, we're partners in the American Airlines Center where the Dallas Mavericks play, and people are going to be hesitant at the beginning before they go sit on the seat, before they put their hand on the escalator, before, you know, they go sit on the park bench outside. So we're already planning on putting together a labeling system and possibly even an augmented reality app so that when you go to sit down, you know exactly what was done to that seat, you know, handle, park bench, whatever, when it was cleaned, who it was cleaned, and how it was cleaned. And if we use the AR app, then we'll be able to point at any object in the arena and tell you the exact same thing, and maybe even how many people have been there since the last time it was clean. So, you know, we're going to need entrepreneurs to be very innovative. I'm sure there'll be people that come up with a lot better ideas than what we have, but that, you're exactly right. That's what it's going to take for people to build confidence.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking at the airlines, and it's how many times have you been sitting on flying coach and everybody just scrunched in like this? Yeah. Maybe the airlines have to be a little more social distancing conscious, and they have to maybe restructure some of these planes. You think that might be in our future? Absolutely. You know, artificial intelligence is a big deal now when people are going to be using AI to try to design, whether it's airplanes or redesign the seat configurations in airplanes, in restaurants, in bars, everywhere where people congregate, there'll be new configurations. And airlines, they're going to really have to move quickly. And, you know, and it's not just that. I mean, when you go back to work and you walk into that big conference room, when you stand at that door the first time, everybody's going to be hesitant. So this is something that's going to have to take hold nationally for every single business at some level. Well, all right. Well, the private sector, in my mind, has been a bright spot, as it typically is. If you look back historically, it is the private sector that tends to rescue America out of these situations, whether it's Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow. He's not making pillows anymore. He's making masks out there. The Statler Hotel right there in your neck of the woods out there in Dallas, they are opening up their floors to medical personnel. In your mind, how has see, there you go. How has the private sector performed in this? And do people who put too much faith in government, should they reevaluate moving forward?
No, you know what? It's a tough balance. I think, you know, there are a lot of companies that have a good heart, that are good corporate citizens, that are always going to do the right thing. You know, Mike Lindell tries to do that. Statler Hotel has tried to do that. The Dallas Mavericks have tried to do that. But, you know, we're in new times right now. And when you have imperfect information, Chris, you make imperfect decisions. So it's hard to say we know exactly what to do. And I do think government will play a role. Even though I'm libertarian at heart, I think this time it's a little bit different because we have to take care of people at the bottom. Because if we don't have consumers, hotels aren't going to rent rooms, people aren't going to buy pillows, people aren't going to buy tickets to Mavs games. And so there's a challenge on bringing the bottom up. I think, you know, as much as I believe in entrepreneurs can solve almost anything, I think we also have to recognize that we have to have some trickle up economics as well. So I'm not opposed to helping those at the bottom, and I think it's a necessity, but I really want government to, when entrepreneurs get rolling and when we start creating companies, that's where they have to get out of the way and let us do our thing.
See, I'm a big believer in that, too, and I'm interested to hear what your take is because you're one of these guys, an out-of-the-box type of thinker. What do you make it when certain politicians want to demonize entrepreneurs as the root of all evil, and that they're the reason why there's so much suffering. All of these entrepreneurs around the United States is the reason why there's an income disparity gap and all this kind of nonsense.
Well, first, no, income inequality is a big deal. To me, that's important. But to your point, I stopped listening to politicians a long time ago. I don't care who it is. Just get out of my way, right? And look, again, you got to take care of all your employees. And I think great entrepreneurs will do that. I give all my employees stock, and I think every company should give their employees stock because it takes everybody in the organization, particularly now. I mean, coming back to work, you're asking people to really focus on doing the right thing and helping you go into this America 2.0. So that's important. And to me, the politicians just, let us do our thing. As long as we're, good corporate citizens and try to help our employees and build them up, preferably give them equity so they can grow with us, then that's when we're going to change everything and the world's going to be a better place.
Well, speaking of the politicians, let's talk a little bit about your evaluation of how President Trump has done in his response to the coronavirus. His poll numbers are coming up. How do you think, writ large, his response has been?
I don't know. There's no matter what anybody does in government right now, particularly in administration, there's no right answers. They're all doing the best they can, and I give them credit for that. Nobody's just laying back and just ignoring the crisis. I mean, so I think their effort has been great. They haven't cut perfect deals because you can't, and that's okay too. So I applaud them for that. The only thing I would take issue with is that there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. When you have so many people trying to lead, it's hard for anybody to lead. And so I think that's kind of a challenge for him. But overall, I think the effort's been great, and their goal has been good, and that's all you can ask for in these difficult times.
There are folks out there saying that this country would be much better off if it were a President Joe Biden in the Oval Office making these decisions. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. That's not, I'm not getting into politics right now. I've got, I'm an entrepreneur, Chris. I got better problems to solve. I got businesses to build. I've got companies in Shark Tank that I've invested in that I'm trying to help them. I got employees to try to bring back for some of those companies. It's going to come down to capitalists having a heart and having some compassionate capital and at play. We got to get people back to work, and we got to bring people back to work as directly and quickly as we can. The stimulus program is great for that. The execution hasn't been perfect with the banks. You've seen the delays and you've talked about them. But the quicker we can get people back to work and lift everybody up, then business can really, really explode. And that's what we need to get back to.
Yeah, that's the last question I had for you. As a matter of fact, it took me right where I wanted to go about compassion inside of corporate America. You know that 3M has been making headlines here recently because of what I would argue their distributors have been up to, selling these masks. They're in high demand here in the United States and need. Their distributors are making a lot of money selling it to foreign countries. Should that be going on from an American company in the midst of this outbreak?
Of course not. I don't want to jump to conclusions and say it's their distributors because they've got a lot of good corporate citizens there. I've talked to a couple of them. But what I do know is this, Chris. Their CEO should have been out front talking about this. Probably the first company to know that there was a massive shortage of PPE, and in particular N95 masks, was 3M. They have product managers that know this stuff cold. They know where all the production is coming from. They know where all the demand was going and who was placing orders and who couldn't get enough. If they would have been open and transparent and communicated with the American people, they would have reduced the stress, and it would have been a far more efficient market. Because they've been opaque and quiet about all this, other than to say that they're producing as much as they can, which is good. I want to give them credit. They've jacked up production, and that's great. I'm certainly glad that they did. But the fact that they've been so opaque about the market when they could have been transparent has led to an inefficient market, has led to a black market, has led to people hoarding. And when that happens, that's where you get all these increases in prices in $6, $7, $8 masks, and first-line healthcare providers not able to get them. That's why I've been upset with 3M, simply because they've been so opaque. If they had just been open and transparent, where their production is, where the hotspots are, here's how we get it there. Let's work with our competitors to solve this problem. Let's work with the administration, whether it's Jared, whether it's Peter Navarro, whoever it may be. There would be a lot more frontline healthcare workers who have the equipment they need. And instead, we get this price gouging from wherever.
Yeah, no, you know what? At the very least, it's a PR nightmare, but I think there's a lot more there. Last question I have for you is about, from all the folks who are NBA fans out there, what do you think that the NBA is going to get back to business this year?
In my heart of hearts, I do. I don't have data for that, but it's going to be safety first, Chris. That's paramount. We can't put our employees, our stakeholders, fans, or anybody at risk. So I can't give you a date, but I'm optimistic. I think in 30 days or whatever, May 1st, when we look at it again and we have more scientific information, then we'll be able to make a stronger decision. But I certainly hope that we come back.
Mark Cuban, I appreciate the time here on the Chris Salcedo Show. You're always welcome, sir.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Great questions. I enjoyed it.
You bet. You betcha. All right, still more to come, folks.